I actually had a constituent ask me, why do you do training every day? That seems a little excessive. I'm like, you have no idea what we go through in our office. And it's not just the laws of the state of Florida with, motor vehicle that our staff needs to know. They have to know it from 50 states,
Yes.
because when you're bringing a title in from a different state or re-registering a vehicle from another state, you got to know the laws of their states as well. So it takes a minimum of 2 years for a frontline staff person to become proficient and not have to look everything up. And even to this day, 20 plus year employees still have to look information up. And each of those states change those rules constantly. So you got to stay constantly informed on what's happening and where. Hello, everybody. This is Chris Kraft, your St. Lucie County tax collector, and today is another episode of Behind the Counter. And today with us we have Giovanna. She's going to talk to us about some of the operations, but first thing we're going to do is start with a career. So Giovanna, welcome to Behind the Counter.
Thank you.
Now, as director of operations, you've been in this role now for a little bit. You weren't even going to apply for the job, and I had to sit you down and say, Giovanna, we really need you here. Take a look at this, at least apply and go through the process. And you've been doing it for how long now?
Almost 3 years, so 2.5 years.
My goodness, it's been that long. Time flies when you're having a blast.
Such a blast. It's like sometimes I didn't know I signed up for this, but yeah. It's ups and downs.
What is your role as director?
So my role as director is I'm over all the branch managers, and that's more so to provide them support and to guide them on how to support their supervisors to then, in turn, their supervisors support their team. It's just guidance. A lot of the projects is what I handle for operations side, the Orion merge, that we're getting ready. It's just
So Orion, for the public, so you understand, we used to have two ancient systems. I think they were designed in 1890. They're on an old DOS format, and one was called Frivis, one was called Fidless. And the state decided to go through this modernization project that they've literally been working on for the last 10 years. And they are just now going live with it. Well, they went live with one half of it last year, and now we're moving into the other half this year. So it's a much better system for us, but it doesn't mean that it doesn't have its hiccups being new. A lot of the delays that you'll see, I'm willing to bet that 90% of any delays we have serving the public is because there's a glitch in the state system.
Right.
It's down for some reason, or things just aren't connecting the way they're supposed to, and it happens almost weekly. It's not as bad as it was in the beginning.
No, it's gotten tremendously better.
Yeah.
And I think even if our downtime with the Orion system, what they've modernized already, that's just, we have a lot more constant feedback saying, okay, this is already fixed, or this is what we've implemented to go around that. With Frivis right now, because it doesn't have that modern software, it's like, okay, this is what we have to wait for that, so kind of find this loophole to try to get to what you need to do, because they're not focused on that right now. They're focused on just the motor vehicle issuance, transitioning to that. So that's all. I'm hoping once they're both integrated and we go fully live with everything, that we're just able to see the transition a little bit smoother.
And for the public, so they get a better idea of it, the staff is literally toggling back and forth between several different applications during a transaction.
Yes.
If you come in, you just move to the county, you're having to do a Frivis transaction, you're having to do a Fidless transaction. If you have Hunt and Fish, you got to do that transaction, which is a third application. So it just keeps on going and going and going. If they have an at-home business, now that's got to be done as well. So in every one of those is a different application.
Yeah, and it's good that you bring that up, because a lot of people, when they have a pending suspension right now, because they're two different softwares, two different applications, if they come in to title a vehicle, we don't even go or touch that driver's license side, because they're not here to do that.
Right.
So they're like, I was here last week to title my car, and you didn't tell me that my driver's license was pending a suspension. So we're hoping that we kind of close that loop, once they're both integrated, because we don't go into another application if we don't need to. We're here to serve you, and we're here to take care of what you came to do business for.
Yeah, we want fast,
yes.
We want accurate, and courtesy. So accurate be number one. What's number two, would you say? friendly.
Friendly, definitely.
Yeah, we want accurate, fast, and friendly.
Yes.
I mean, and if we're unfriendly, I will take that if we're fast. But we really want to get the public out of here. You have much more important things to do than hang out the DMV on any given day. Yeah. And I think for the most part, and when people make appointments, they're out the door within 20 minutes of their appointment time. Yes. I mean, that's the average. It doesn't mean that we don't miss the mark sometimes. If people come on look, if you're going to come into the office, try not to do it on Monday and Fridays. We get absolutely hammered. And certainly don't come on a Monday after a 3-day weekend. So if the office is closed on Friday, don't come in on that Monday. If you make an appointment, that's fantastic. We'll get you in and out. Yeah. But when you want to come as a walk-in, you're going to plan on waiting if it's after those days. The public can't afford the government that would provide on-demand service when they walk in the front door every single time. It just doesn't work.
Right, and we try to advise customers, if you have, you can renew your license 18 months in advance, so schedule an appointment for that. You can renew your registration 3 months in advance. So if you come into the office on a Monday or Friday, or especially after a holiday, we're going to encourage you to make an appointment and come back so you're not waiting.
And you can do both of those transactions online.
Yes, you can.
You can do your driver license online every other time it's renewed. So in theory, you may not have to come in this office for a driver license once, three times in 60 years. And so it's every 10, is it 8 years or 6 or
8
10
years?
8 years, yeah.
Yes.
All right. So now let's fast forward. Let's talk about what happens. Staff reports to work at 8:15 in the morning, and we open the door to the public at 9. What happens from 8:15 to 9 o'clock?
So, they come in, they have to get their drawers, they have to get their stations ready to make sure they're ready. They have paper in their printers.
When you say drawer, we're talking about money, not
money.
Underwear,
yes.
Right? Okay, just make sure.
Yes, they get their money, and then check their emails. They get some internal emails. A lot of them are, depending on the season, it's, a tax letter that went out to the public for, a tax deed or an installment application, just giving us a heads up. Okay. We do have a lot of TAs that come out.
That's a technical advisory.
Technical advisory from the state, and a lot of them recently have been effective immediately. So sometimes they do give us that grace of, okay, this is coming out, but it's not going to be effective till about a week from now.
So let's talk about what a TA, what kind of changes they may be making. They'll change something on one of the forms that we have to use, or
immigration.
What we can accept for immigration.
Yes. From one day to the next, I say, okay, we can no longer use this form for an issuance of a credential. So it changes from one day to the next, and we have to be on top of that. So we have a startup every morning, say, okay, this technical advisory came out, and this is how we're going to address the customers, because they are going to be upset. They're going to be frustrated, because if they said they came yesterday and they were missing a proof of residence document and they come back today, now we can't even take the immigration document.
Well, and for instance on that, we used to be able to have the customer sign an affidavit, so they only had to provide one proof of residence, and then we had a technical advisory saying, no, we no longer accept the affidavit. Yes. Now, had we not done that, people would have received a notice in the mail from the state of Florida saying that they need to now come back to the office and provide that document to us. So it's important that we keep up with those technical advisories, and we'll get into the training in just a second, but that also is where it's covered. So we'll not only cover it with them reading the technical advisories that come out, but then we reinforce it with additional training.
Yes.
And there's a little startup meeting every morning, takes 5 minutes.
Yes, we talk about what goes on in the office if we're short, because of illnesses or just things that happen. We talk about what the game plan is for the day, so everyone's on the same page.
So now that's after they've gotten their money, they've got their station ready to go, they've checked their emails, they've checked technical advisories, and then we move into
our training,
our daily training.
Yes.
Now, let's talk about some of the different types of trainings that we go over.
So a lot of it depends on the season. So if we know heavy trucks is going to come due in December, we have a training to go over what the documents.
And those have recently been split into 2, right?
Yes,
we have 2 seasons for it now.
2 seasons
thank
now.
God.
Yes. So that that helps with the workload. But if we know tax season is coming up, we do have a training to say, okay, this is what's acceptable. This is what you're going to see, and we have 1 day of training, and then the second day of questions and answers. So because we only have that 25-minute in the morning before we have to give them time to get back to their station and be ready to open the doors. So sometimes it's split into 2 different different days that we do have just people, our clerks just ask questions on what's going on, but it depends on the season. We have each supervisor has a bulletin in their office for them to request the training that they feel they need, because we do a variety of transactions. We can't always touch on everything, but at least if we're getting the feedback from our staff saying this is what I need training on, then the supervisor can determine whether it's a one-on-one training or if it's the majority of the team, and then go about how they want to handle that.
Right. So we'll go through any of the updates like that. CDLs, we've had a lot of changes with CDL.
A lot of
process.
changes. I mean, to the fact that we even have to call the state when we have a CDL customer, just they're trying to limit fraud. So,
and we had a bad problem with that.
We did.
And we cracked down on it. We actually spoke to a couple other counties. We had some folks that were coming in with earbuds in their ear, and they'd pick up, we had like the old timey phone receivers.
Yeah.
If they'd ask for the test to be audible. So they put that receiver up there so the person on the other end could hear the question and then tell them the answer. And if we didn't catch that little earbud, we have people out there who are passing the test who maybe have never even been behind a wheel. Like, we have no idea.
Yeah, or whether they understand what the sign is.
Right.
Especially for commercial drivers. I mean, that's important, knowing the rules and regulations of what you can and can't do.
So now we've changed that out and required the people taking the test that they want audible. They're actually putting earbuds in themselves from our earbuds. We give them a 25-cent throwaway earbud that they put in, so they can't cheat that way.
Yeah, that's
that doesn't mean they're not finding. It doesn't mean they're not finding other ways to do it, because we're always vigilant on cracking down on it. But
that has helped tremendously.
Yeah. Also, document changes. We have a ton of different documents that have come in that we can accept. There's different documents that we have to have the public sign.
Yes. And that just depends on, what's going on. If the state happens to say, okay, the customers found a loophole to do this, and then they just send, okay, this is what you have to do moving forward. So they're just trying to limit fraud and tell us, okay, this is what you need to do moving forward.
And some of the things that the state has provided us was different workarounds until the merger is complete.
Correct.
So we have to go over the trainings for those in the morning. And then we also include in-house training. Customer service, how to deal with difficult customers. Not saying that anyone in the public here is difficult, but you think about it, every person in the county at some point in their life is coming through this office. Yes. Oftentimes, multiple times a year, depending on what their job is. So we got to make sure that our staff is prepared to deal with multiple different types of transactions, make sure that they're ready to deal with all kinds of different personalities.
Yes, that's a big part of it, and it's simple as, telling the customer, okay, I can't do this because you need this form. As soon as you have this form, you can come back into the office. I'll make you an appointment, or here's a card. You can scan the QR code and make the appointment yourself whenever you feel you're ready to come back into the office. So it's also how we communicate to the customer. It's not saying that we can't do it, it's saying this is how we can do it.
Right.
Because that's ultimately they're here to get that service done. Yep, so it's as simple as that.
Yep, I love it. And my big pet peeve, this is what we did when I first got here 12 years ago, was cross training. So you're not bumped from one counter, from one clerk to another, depending on the transaction type that you're doing. So we go through a lot of that reinforcement in the mornings as well. Yes,
that, and we've started doing all day trainings. We have, at least 25 clerks that have been here less than 2 years. So we're going back over to, the foundational training, giving them the opportunity, because going through it at 6 months and then having the morning training sometimes also feels is a little short, that it's not enough time in the morning. So we've penciled out a few times a month, to do an all-day training so they can go through the whole process from start to finish on different scenarios. And then they're with the training team, and then they go in and practice live customers. And so they can, decipher the information that they actually got and put it into practice, because that's very important.
So you mentioned training team. We have a training coordinator, and they work with the assistant supervisors to provide the training, correct?
Yes, and the managers
as
well.
Right. The managers kind of say, this is the training areas we need,
right,
but it's put together by the training coordinator and the assistants.
Yes.
And administered by the assistants.
Yes, primarily. Administered by the assistants, yes.
Great. Anything else on the training side that we want to touch on?
No, it's just, really training, we can't have enough. And with our work hours, and obviously our priorities to serve the public, it's especially with the merge and having the clerks find out the fastest way to get to certain tabs and stuff like that. And that's what's going to take us a little bit longer in the beginning, because it's going to be a whole new system within, a system that we already use. But it's going to be a transaction that used to take 5 minutes may now take 7 to 8 minutes, just because they're taking a little bit longer to maneuver throughout the system. So we've put in place, each office has a beta system. So once they go through the training.
So that's a test system, so the public understands
yes, beta is a test system within the environment that, the software, the application that we currently have, so they can do mock transactions and they can go through the different tabs to facilitate whenever they have that customer in front of them, the maneuvering is just a little bit better.
I actually had a constituent ask me, why do you do training every day? That seems a little excessive. I'm like, you have no idea what we go through in our office. And it's not just the laws of the state of Florida with, motor vehicle that our staff needs to know. They have to know it from 50 states, because when you're bringing a title in from a different state or re-registering a vehicle from another state, you got to know the laws of their states as well. So it takes a minimum of 2 years for a frontline staff person to become proficient and not have to look everything up. And even to this day, 20 plus year employees still have to look information up. And each of those states change those rules constantly. So you got to stay constantly informed on what's happening and where. We also have done training on sovereign citizens, and that's where a person says, I'm not really it's a fantasy. It's a government name. Right. Government. We have to give the training on that and on how to recognize that. We've also created we call it the blue room. It's kind of the relief valve when we have an angry customer on the floor, because that can sometimes be contagious, and we'll ask that this person be escorted to the blue room. They can sit down. We can sit across the desk from them, and people, they sit down, their blood pressure tends to drop a little bit. But we do training on how to de-escalate those situations. So the morning trainings, like you said, we cannot have enough of it. And we're working on some exciting things that we'll be announcing later this year, I hope, after we find out whether or not our new budget's approved.
Yeah,
so that'll be really cool. Let's talk a little bit about appointments. So we start every morning to the public. We open at 9 a.m.
Yes.
And we're running appointments from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. And why is it important that we do that in the morning between 9 and 2?
Well, for the office flow, we try to manage. We have lunches that start at 11 o'clock. So we don't want people here just waiting for hours. We can manage that work, that office flow a little bit better, especially with our training going on, that we have half-day trainings right now for the Orion merge that we're working on. It just helps us not be super bombarded, but still being able to help the public within 20 minutes, because that's the point of having an appointment as well for the public is, I want to be in and out. That's why I made an appointment.
You can have an expectation of being served within a reasonable time of that appointment.
Right. Yeah. If we didn't have that and we just let everyone in, we wouldn't be able to keep up. So I think that's very important for us.
I think it's important too to recognize, or does it let the public know that doesn't mean that we don't take walk-ins during that time if we can.
Yes.
And we always try to work in walk-in traffic. Now, there are some days like not this Monday, but Monday past after Good Friday. We were closed on Friday. We had 8 people out at Walton Road with COVID, of all things. And then we were down in the Fort Pierce office, I think 7 employees, including the branch manager.
Yes.
So it put a stress on us, the normal Monday traffic plus the holiday traffic minus 15 essential workers to perform the services that need to be provided for the public. And we got our rear ends handed to us that day.
We did.
And it happens. We're not going to get it right 100% of the time. Things happen, and we're human beings just like everybody else, but we try to make sure we're ready for it when it does. If anything, this organization is extremely agile, and I think we've been tested that many a times over the years. But again, sometimes we miss the ball, the mark.
And we know we're going to end up helping the customer eventually. So the faster we can get the customer in, we don't want to send anyone away,
right?
Because we're going to end up, like I said, helping them eventually. But it's just trying to manage that. We have cancellations, or we see, okay, our customers just didn't show up for their appointment. Yeah, we're going to let you in because we have the availability to do so. But like you said, it's not guaranteed. We try to do our best, and and hopefully it'll help decrease the 2:30 rush or walk-in time.
Yep. And We've also been, ironically, it doesn't make any sense to me, but we've been criticized a little bit because we don't take out of county residents. Now, number one, I'm never going to prioritize Miami-Dade or Broward over St. Lucie County residents. That's never going to happen in this county. But the reason we did it is because the state was running, still is currently, Miami-Dade and Broward. And they're in the midst of transferring those responsibilities over to the local tax collector in those counties. But because they're trying to save money, they haven't adequately staffed those offices down there, which has put a tremendous amount of pressure on all the surrounding counties, all the way up to Orange County and Okeechobee County, people are driving from Miami-Dade and Broward to get service. So what we decided to do was to do like every county to the south of us, is to restrict. I take that back. I think Martin does take some limited out-of-county transactions right now, and we obviously help each other out. If we have a system or an application that's down and we can't serve, we'll give them a heads up and we can send our traffic there, and they do the same. We'll do the same for them. But when that happened, it really, we wouldn't be able to serve our customers right now.
We wouldn't be able to keep up. And the word of mouth is crazy. You know, if we happen to help one customer that is, for example, from Miami, just because of their situation, and we have the ability to do so, it's, we tell them, it's okay, please do not say anything. This is an accommodation we're making for you today.
Right.
If, you come back tomorrow, you're not going to get that accommodation.
And it's like, it's been said, we lose revenue. No, we get $6.25 on a driver license. You figure out the average wage of a staff, and I'll do a podcast about this to kind of go through the economics. We literally lose money on an average driver license transaction in the office. And it doesn't hurt me. It actually takes money out of the pocket of the Board of County Commission in our excess fees that we transfer at the end of the year. So that's why it's really important that we run a lean, efficient organization focused primarily on St. Lucie County residents. And that doesn't mean if you come in, we take out of county CDL drivers. We'll help those folks out because it's really important. Or if you happen to even own property or you work here, we'll help out of county folks that way. But otherwise, we'd have as many Miami-Dade and Broward customers as we have our own.
We wouldn't be able to keep up and help our St. Lucie County residents. And we're trying to, there's a human side of it. Yes, everyone has, life events and things that happen, and they're like, I'm going to lose my job if I don't get my license reinstated today. We obviously are trying to, mitigate that, but it's really hard. We try to help as many as we can. If we can, if we can't, we have to prioritize our residents.
Approximately how many customers a day are we waiting on?
We go anywhere from 300 to 400, depending on after a holiday.
That's not total transactions though. That's per location.
That's per location.
Yes. So that's times 3. It's around 1,000 customers a day that we service between all 3 branches.
Yes.
And we had, I think we're averaging over 100 driver licenses a day just at the Tradition office.
We actually, the Monday after the holiday, we did 201 driver's license alone in that office.
That's bonkers. And that's what I was saying is that Monday I don't understand why the public wants to come see us on Mondays and Fridays. It was, you could bowl in here on Wednesday after that Monday that we got clobbered. It just, those 2 days, and I don't know why it is. So we really want to try to encourage the public. Make an appointment, number 1. If you've got to come as a walk-in, if you can at all avoid it, do not come on a Monday, a Friday, or the first day back from a holiday.
Right. That and it really, I think what doesn't help as well is, we send links whenever a customer makes an appointment for the required documents. Open up those links. Those are important. You want to make sure you have what you need. Our communications department did a great job on the website to put a document center. So it literally goes through, okay, if you're here to do a title transaction, this is what you need. So open up those links. We want you to be as best prepared, whenever you come to one of our locations, because we want to help you that first time.
Yeah, especially you're coming in, you wait a couple minutes, you get to the counter, you went through the effort of making your appointment, and
then
take
time off work.
You took time off work, and then you don't have that extra proof of residency.
Right.
And that just it's a stab in the heart because we don't
it
like to
causes frustration,
Yeah.
you know, and understandably so. But we try as best to educate, the public with what we need. All of our updates are there. So if something changed from one day to the next, you will get that update of what that document is that you now need to do, whatever it is that you need to come into the office and do.
So if I had to boil down your ultimate responsibility, if I were to say what your job really was, and you're really tasked, you are the one who's tasked with turning misery into magic on a daily basis, because you're the captain of the boat to make sure the customer service is delivered.
Yeah, and I think it's really understanding or helping everyone understand the bigger picture. Whenever, the managers especially, they come to me, I have this issue, how do I fix it? It's like, okay, let's talk it through. And okay, if this was a situation, what would you do? Allowing them to understand, to think that bigger picture, I think is one of the hardest things to do, but you have to talk that through to understand, okay, we're here to ultimately help the public, so what can we do to do that accurately and friendly, and what do we need to support our supervisors and our staff? So I think ultimately in providing consistency, I know, with all of the TAs, the technical advisories that we get, it feels that we're being inconsistent because from one day to the next, the documents are changing.
Oh yeah.
So that causes a lot of frustration. So us having, us explaining to the public and having them understand that sometimes that does happen, and we're not here to make your job hard, or try to
make your life difficult.
Right. It's just, we're here to help you, but this is what we're tasked to do, and we're just enforcing what we need to do and the documents required.
And I think too, it's important to stress to the public that, we so often have customers that say that, well, one clerk said I couldn't do it, and then I came back the next time and another clerk said I could.
Mm-hmm.
And I tell the staff all the time, if you can live in the gray and you could articulate your argument, I will support you. And some, especially the newer clerks, aren't comfortable with that.
Right.
So they may say no to something that a more tenured clerk would say yes to, because they better understand the big picture, like
Right.
you were talking about. So it's really important that we try to build consistency across the board, but we're also we have so many different issues and so many different circumstances that we can't possibly train the staff on every single issue, nor can we expect the staff's going to ask for help on every single transaction.
Yes.
We've got to train them how to critically think, and they need repetition on these different transaction
Resources,
types.
cheat sheets, our training coordinator has done a great job with the cheat sheets and trying to just facilitate for them to get the answers, just in a timely manner for our customers, and knowing that they're there, the resources are there, is just now being comfortable with now conveying that to the customer. It's just, okay, this is what you need, making sure that the customer understands what you're really saying. Paraphrasing is big, so and that, so you understand what the customer ultimately is trying to do, but really empathizing whenever we can't, because they do come frustrated, and it's not that we don't want to, it's just
Right.
we have to abide by policies and procedures.
Trust me, the last thing we want to do is wait on that customer a second time.
If we can help you the first time, we will.
We really do encourage staff to live in the gray so that we can get your time is, the public's time is valuable to us.
Yes.
And if they've got to come back in, then that's pushing the next transaction that much further back. So it's really important that we work to make sure we get it right the first time and keep you from having to come back. So Giovanna, I want to thank you so much for joining us today, and to the public, thank you for joining in for another peek behind the counter. And until next time, I'm Chris Kraft, your St. Lucie County Tax Collector.